3rd District. Congressman Womack, thank you for joining us.
Hey, Alice. Good morning to you.
I appreciate your time this morning, and it's hard to talk about all three of these issues at once, so we're going to divide them up. And one specific aspect is the IRS, specifically acknowledging and targeting conservative groups. And what are your just initial concerns about the fact we have the financial arm of the government basically threatening and intimidating conservative groups who oppose the president's agenda?
Well, the first thing I will tell you is having had an opportunity to have Mr. Miller in a hearing a couple of months ago as part of my appropriations duties, as an appropriator and as a member of the Financial Services General Government Subcommittee, we have oversight over IRS matters, and so he appeared before our subcommittee, and I got him in a discussion about his budget. I wish I would have been privy to the information that has surfaced in the last few days about the IRS. That would have made for a much more enlightening discussion, as it were. But the reason I bring him up is because I believe that everything is influenced by what happens at the top. And if you watch his testimony, particularly his responses in the Ways and Means Committee room the other day, last week, you have to come away believing that this guy has a bit of a pompous nature about himself.
I think the word was arrogant used quite a bit the other day.
There are a lot of Webster's got a lot of terms in his dictionary that you could put Mr. Miller's picture by.
Right.
And I got to tell you, from personal experience, it fits because he was very condescending to our committee, and I think was very condescending at the Ways and Means hearing. Alice, it's in response to your question, my general take on this is this is not about R's and D's. It's not about shirts and skins, who wins and who loses. This goes right to the core of who we are as Americans and what is written in that Constitution that has served this country for well over 200 years. And so Benghazi is a problem because we lost life. There were mistakes made, errors of omission and commission. There were, but when you start seizing records, and when you start in the process of determining who's going to qualify for a 501c status, and you start asking the types of questions and doing the types of incredible probing into the personal beliefs, political beliefs, and what have you, religious beliefs of the people who are requesting the status. When you start down that path, you are now messing with the Constitution of the United States, and so it goes to the real heart of who we are as a country. And so I'm very concerned about it, and we have to get closure to this issue and ensure that it never happens again.
And getting closure requires answers, and we can't have any more of Miller's "I don't know" or "we did not target anyone." He didn't like the phrase and the term, but of course those are the phrases and terms that were used in the IG's report. But moving forward, here's the question that I want to ask you about that you were involved in last week. The Democrats love to say, here the Republicans go again, trying to repeal Obamacare. This is the law. This is the law of the land. Take it and just put your man pants on and take it. Here's the concern now with the IRS overreach that we've seen over the past week and a half. Now that the IRS is in charge of implementing Obamacare, specifically the woman who was in charge of targeting these conservative groups, these 501s exempt groups, is now overseeing the IRS aspect of implementing Obamacare. This is more concern than ever to repeal Obamacare, and you worked on that last week.
We did. We took, I think, our 37th or 38th vote to repeal all or part of Obamacare. Let me answer it a couple of different ways for you. Number one, if you believe, as I believe, that it is the most egregious form of government overreach, that is the government takeover of health care, then you have to believe that any time you get an opportunity, you should seize the opportunity to send a message to the American public we're serious about repealing this rascal and replacing it with something that is far more sustainable for our country and that does bring down the cost of health care, which was its original intent. So we believe that deep in our hearts, and a lot of our members have never had an opportunity to vote on a repeal. We got a lot of new members in this Congress, so out of fairness to them, they've had an opportunity now to vote on that. But the other part of it is, when people ask me, why would you continue to do this when you know it's not going anywhere in the Senate, now I have a better answer for them, and that is, okay, the reason we do this is simply this. Do you want the Internal Revenue Service, based on what you now know about what they're doing,
right?
As we've already talked about, do you want the IRS in control of your health care? Because that's essentially what Obamacare does. And I think the overwhelming answer now is absolutely not, and that's why I think there's a lot of groundswell in the public out there about doing something about Obamacare. And Alice, the more we find out about Obamacare, and we're finding things out about it every single day, it's not going to answer the bell for the healthcare needs in our country. It needs to be repealed.
Absolutely. And the last thing we need is, with all the concerns over that, to have the IRS implementing it. And as we saw in those Ways and Means hearings on Friday, the concern, generally when you see those committees, and as you would know, there's the Republican question slant and the Democrat question slant, but there was bipartisan frustration with what the IRS was done, and I think Miller didn't do himself any favors by acting the way he did. But that being said, there's bipartisan frustration over the IRS, and I think that will sway the Senate's perception on implementing Obamacare. So that way, we're going to take a quick break. I want to come back because clearly you have more to do there in D.C. than investigations and respond to whistleblowers and have these hearings. There's money matters to deal with, and you're on the Appropriations Committee. We'll take a break and come back with Congressman Steve Womack out of our 3rd District. That and more on the Alice Stewart Show.